Today we're diving deep into a declassified, heavily censored Imperial record concerning an impossible anomaly out on the galactic fringe. Now, if you follow 40K lore, you know the galaxy is absolutely packed with horrors. But the source material we're looking at today, it describes something entirely different. We're gonna examine an expedition that was completely erased from history, a distress beacon that literally shouldn't exist, and an ancient truth that the Imperium has tried desperately to bury. Just listen to this chilling realization. According to sealed records recovered from a forgotten administratum archive, the warning in this anomaly's distress signal was so deeply disturbing that several inquisitors ordered the source documents destroyed on the spot. The message didn't ask for reinforcements. It didn't warn of an impending invasion. It boldly claimed that humanity had already lost. It's a profound, terrifying shift from the usual Grimdark struggle for survival we're used to seeing. And what makes this signal even more baffling is how long it's been playing. 8,000 years. This distress signal has been repeating on a continuous loop for over 8 millennia. Across warp storms, sector collapses, the rise and fall of entire imperial dynasties, it has never stopped. But the strangest part, the warning appears to be transmitted by space marines. Specifically, space marines who were officially declared dead during the Great Crusade. They shouldn't even exist anymore, yet they're out there still broadcasting. Part 1. The erased expedition deleted from the archives. To even begin to understand this impossible signal, we have to look back at the joint operation that originally discovered it, a fleet entirely erased from Imperial history. Back during the Great Crusade, a joint operation of Mechanicum survey vessels, Imperial Army elements, and an Astartes reconnaissance force was sent out to investigate these weird gravitational distortions near the galactic fringe. Well, while investigating, the fleet's crew logs began recording escalating, reality-breaking astronomical anomalies. We're talking stars appearing where none should exist, planets just vanishing as they approached, and vessels observing perfectly identical duplicate versions of themselves on their scanners. These anomalies completely defied all Mechanicum logic. Part 2. The megastructure, ancient and abandoned. Eventually, the Space Marines made visual contact with an artificial structure larger than many moons, ancient beyond comprehension and covered in unknown, endlessly repeating symbols. The expedition decided to advance which, well, that may have doomed them all. The boarding team's descent into this megastructure was marked by a cascade of impossible events. First, personnel simply vanished. No combat, no alarms, no evidence of violence, just gone. Then security footage started showing impossible things, like personnel appearing in locations they'd never even visited or speaking to alternate versions of themselves. And finally, when astropaths tried to communicate with the Imperium, they suffered catastrophic psychic trauma. Several of them died instantly. Before dying, one astropath managed to deliver a final warning. He claimed that whatever was inside wasn't just observing humanity out of curiosity, it was evaluating us. And there's a big difference there, right? Unlike observation, evaluation implies judgment. It raises this massive, deeply unsettling question for the Imperium. Who or what possesses the authority to judge an entire species? The psychological toll was just immense. Even the psycho-indoctrinated hardened Astartes couldn't resist the anomaly. They started experiencing shared identical dreams of alternate galaxies, places where humanity never evolved. But more importantly, these dreams fed them impossible, highly accurate topographical data. The maps they saw in their sleep perfectly matched the unexplored layout of the physical megastructure they were walking through. The evidence that something was deliberately communicating with them became undeniable. Part 3. The Archive of Extinction, an informational machine. Deep inside a spherical chamber literally larger than a city, the expedition finally found the source, a massive informational machine that activated simply because it recognized them. The second it activated, the machine disrupted every system in the Imperial fleet. Vox channels flooded, servitors failed, and the machine delivered one single devastating statement. Humanity is not the first. Humanity is not the last. Just imagine hearing those words inside a structure older than recorded history. It completely shattered the core tenets of the imperial truth and any concept of human exceptionalism. It was plainly stating that countless civilizations have come and gone before mankind ever reached the stars. Then the archive began projecting a horrifying endless cycle. Witnesses described seeing entire histories unfold right in front of them. A species emerges, their empire expands, they hit a technological golden age, and then complete extinction. The exact same pattern repeating endlessly across millions of years, with different biology and different cultures, all leading to the exact same inevitable collapse. There's a really stark, terrifying contrast here. In the 40K universe, we're so used to threats of violence. You know, chaos corrupts and mutates, xenos conquer and destroy. But the archive revealed an enemy that attacks information and memory itself. This phenomenon doesn't conquer, it surgically erases. Entire regions vanish from records, physical evidence disappears, and memories become unreliable. I mean, how do you defend your civilization against something you literally cannot remember? And if that wasn't terrifying enough, the expedition found something deeply personal. Hidden within isolated data banks that required bypassing multiple automated restrictions, investigators found records of Earth, and these references predated recorded human history. It proved that humanity had been monitored, and our rise predicted since before we even developed technology. Something had expected humanity to emerge and reach this exact point in our evolution. Part 4: Compromised Info, a dangerous connection. Realizing the sheer danger of this knowledge to Imperial stability, the Space Marine commanders decided to set demolition charges and just destroy the archive. But the entity warned them that merely learning these truths had already marked them. The entity claimed that exposure to this information created a connection, a marker that made the expedition visible to the very phenomenon the archive feared. And the evacuation logs show that things immediately fell apart. Ships vanished completely from formation. Crew memories started severely contradicting reality, leading to fleets opening fire on perceived invisible threats. Emergency warp jumps failed entirely. The evacuation turned into absolute chaos, which is what prompted them to initiate that eternal automated distress signal in the first place. Part 5: Voice from the Void, millennia later. Over the centuries, every Imperial attempt to trace that signal failed or resulted in vanished ships. That was until a disturbing new development occurred during the 41st millennium. An impossible recording emerged. A patrol vessel managed to intercept the ancient transmission directly. But this time, there was a voice attached to it. A calm, controlled, Great Crusade-era Astartes captain. He claimed the expedition wasn't destroyed, but trapped somewhere between real space and the warp. He insisted they were still watching Imperial history unfold, but they couldn't return. And most disturbingly, he noted that something else was waiting there with them. Which brings us to a fragmented statement attributed to the archive entity right before the expedition's collapse. The pattern has begun earlier than expected. So the absolutely crucial point here is that phrasing, not that it will begin, but that it has begun. This implies the surgical erasure of humanity wasn't some future threat they were being warned about, but one that was already active the second the fleet arrived. The process was already underway. The official Imperial stance is that the expedition was lost, and the anomaly destroyed, but that signal still broadcasts across the galaxy. So the real takeaway from this explainer is a question that the Imperium absolutely refuses to ask. If these trapped Astartes are still broadcasting their endless warning into the void after 8,000 years, knowing full well what is coming, who exactly are they waiting for? What danger is so absolute that it justifies an eternal warning? Take a moment to really think about that and what it means for the future of the galaxy.